Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine with Pick and Pay, and an episode I've been looking to film for some time. The name Steve Seinfeld might not immediately spring to mind. You might think, oh, with Jerry's cousin perhaps, or something along those lines. But if I say Joburg Foodie, you'll know exactly who I mean. He pretty much owns the Instagram food space in South Africa, is an acclaimed food judge, writes brilliantly, and possibly drinks even more wine than I do, which makes, Steve, you the perfect partner for me. So welcome to Dan Really Likes
Thanks
Wine.
for having me. Steve really likes wine too. So.
I'm in great company, and what you've done today is bring some wine along for me to taste, which I'm really looking forward to do. But before we do that, the journey of Steve Seinfeld to the Joburg Foodie, it wasn't that long ago when food was simply an interest, a passion, something you liked, and had to fit in between a semblance of a real job. How did that turn about, and where did this love of food and wine come from?
So I've always loved food and wine from when I could drink it.
Age 12.
Yeah, age 12. There's actually a story there. But I was studying accounting science at Wits, and I hated accounting, and I needed a passion project. I've always been super creative, but I could do the maths and I could do the numbers. And I was going crazy just being stuck in this whole numbers game. So I started the Joburg Foodie as a pure passion project. I was going out too much anyway for a varsity student, needed to find some way to justify it. And my friends would always say, where should we eat? What's new? What's happening? And I had all the photos on my phone anyway, because it was just something I would do by habit. And yeah, that's literally how it started. Went home one day, was really annoyed, and started an Instagram account. And it kind of took off from there. As I say, the whole passion for food from when I was a really small child. I mean, my mother will tell you a story about when I went to my aunt's house, and she said, do you want some Provita? And I said, yeah, sure. So she's like, well, what do you normally have in it? And I said, do you have cream cheese and caviar? And she said, we've got jam and cheese. So it's always been a lifelong passion that kind of has just evolved and evolved and evolved. And now, yeah, got to this point.
Was it a scary decision to move into this at a full-time level?
Yeah, it was absolutely terrifying. So I got my undergrad in accounts. So it's like, I don't want to be an auditor. So I actually went and I got a part-time job. And eventually got to the point where the part-time job wanted more of me. I wanted more of me for Joburg Foodie. And I just jumped, and it was absolutely terrifying. But it just, the focus it gave me, just focusing on it completely, was the best thing I could have done.
And it's been incredibly successful. You combine a terrific eye for food, your photographs are brilliant, you've got a lovely way with words when it comes to talking about what you eat and drink. And you've also, which I think is probably the most impressive, you've picked up a very strong following from amongst the food cognoscenti, the restaurateurs, the people in the industry itself, have come, again, a very short space of time to know what you do and to respect what you do.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, and it's what I'm most proud of with the Joburg Foodie is how I've been embraced by the industry. And I think it did come about from genuine passion. I think it's often lacking, especially in this space. And yeah, I mean, they've become my family. They're like my best friends. It's the most amazing thing.
Well, basically, if I ever come to Marble or Saint, I think you actually live in a cupboard in Marble.
Yeah,
a space
around the corner.
And why not? It's a beautiful restaurant. I spend a great deal of time here myself. We both love the food here, as we love the food at Saint, but we also love the wine, and so that's what we have to do today. You've actually got some qualifications. You're doing some wine studying at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, so I've got my Wine and Spirits Education Trust Level 2, and I'm next week going to do Level 3, so yeah.
Well, this is part of the educational process then, as you educate me on some wine. And I gave you a complete open sheet. I said, bring in absolutely anything you want. I'm intrigued to see what you've bought. What are we starting off with today?
So yeah, I've bought 4 of my current favorite wines. I never like to say favorite because they change all the time. And what I try to do is I'm very passionate about showcasing young winemakers as a young writer. I think it's a cool dynamic, and I have great conversations with them, and it's what I've done. So all these winemakers are under the age of 35. And what we're going to start off with is a Swartland Chenin. It's called Bosparas. It is by Paulus Wine Co. He's actually Paul Jordan. He's Eben Sadi's assistant winemaker. I'm sure you're familiar with the wine.
I don't think I've actually had this one before, so I'm quite excited about this.
Okay, fantastic. That was actually my goal, to find wines you hadn't tried.
Well, so, last week I had dinner at La Colombe, and we had a couple of bottles of Eben's Chenins, which were superb. And I know that Eben always speaks so highly of Paul.
Yeah.
And it's Eben's a great example of what I think a lot of our winemakers are doing, and we're going to see, I think, an example a little later on, where the older guard are passing on to the younger guard and not seeing them as a threat, but trying to lift them up as well for the greater good of the industry.
100%, and I think it's something that's so important, and for a long time it wasn't happening. For a long time we did have this culture where people were very much keeping to themselves and not passing on to younger generations, and I think it was across the culinary industry, and now it's really cool to see mentorship taking such a big space on the table.
So you can see that this is a food person because this is a food
That is a
person's
tasting.
Lots of
Plenty
people
more,
remember
should you
going
know.
round to Steve's house for dinner. Not many remember leaving.
Cheers.
Cheers, and a great start because I'm besotted with Chenin Blanc.
Yeah, I think it's something we do so well, and I mean, we often talk about Sauvignon Blanc and how, you know, South Africa seems to be obsessed with it. I think Chenin is what we probably should be drinking more of. It grows better here. I think it tastes better.
For the record, Steve hates Sauvignon Blanc.
Hate is a strong word.
Intensely dislikes.
There we go.
All right. So when we drink our top-end Chenin, there's that smoothness that just rides through everything. The fruit that comes through. This has got some lovely grapefruit. I don't like grapefruit as a fruit, but in wine,
Yeah.
for some reason, it just works so well for me.
And it is. It's that lovely like acidity, but it's not overwhelming. So I think it's a fantastic example of South African Chenin.
And appropriate to be drinking it at one of the top restaurants in the country because it's a wine that on its own is absolutely fine, but it does scream out for partnership with a really good meal.
100%. And I think across the board, what we've chosen today, they all could pair pretty decently with food. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in drinking what you like when you go out for dinner. And pairings, yes, they work, but sometimes, you know, if you just feel like a great bottle of Chenin, take it through the meal. Most of the time it will work, I think.
So you are the Joburg Foodie. What would you
Yes.
be eating with this?
Chenin, I'd probably stick to, you know, fish. Even oysters, I think it's got a decent acidity here, especially the ones that Marvel do. I think it could work really well. Yeah, but definitely something light. Bit of seafood. It's got a lovely minerality.
I'd have a crack at a seafood curry with this.
Yeah.
Sort of slightly sweeter,
Well, it could actually
fruity mussel curry.
cut through the sweetness too. So
Oh, but again, just on its own is absolutely cracking. And also a tribute to the rise and rise and rise of the
of
Swartland.
Swartland, exactly. And I think it is, you know, it's been niche for so long, and I think it is slowly starting to get the recognition it deserves as a proper wine region in terms of mainstream wine drinkers.
So the only downside, Steve, starting with this, is that you're probably going to go downhill from here because this is great.
I hope not.
So let's see. That is one down. That's a
Let's-
really, really
Can I
good
actually pass
start.
that
You can
to you?
indeed. And let's see what's up second.
Chaos White from Elgin Ridge. I am pretty much obsessed with this wine. I think everyone's heard me talk about it. I think it is just the most wonderful, eclectic, fun wine. And I mean, small little bottle. It's, you know, very attention grabbing. And it's by a young winemaker named Kwesi van der Merwe. He is, I think, 31 years old. And he really has. He's doing the most incredible stuff in Elgin. Again, another wine region that I think is really on the rise and something we should be paying a lot of attention to. Funnily enough, it is 68% Sauvignon Blanc.
And you like it?
And I like
Did
it.
you know that? when
I
you
did
tried
know
it?
that. But it's a really interesting winemaking process. There are 2 different clones of Sauvignon Blanc. There are 2 different clones of Semillon, if I'm not mistaken. And some of it is tank fermented, some of it is whole bunch fermented, some of it is pressed and then straight into barrel. And it's just this wonderful blend. And I think it's quite unlike anything I've had before.
But Elgin is Richard Kershaw territory. He's probably
Exactly.
the godfather of clonal experimentation.
Well,
in
100%.
South
I
Africa.
mean, you speak to him and you talk about his graphs and how he plots everything. It's quite incredible. But I think, of course, he believes that you kind of leave things to the elements. There's actually this wonderful quote on the back that says, "Winemakers are anything but creators. We are merely mediators between elements, taming them in a chaotic environment until blended and guided into a bottle. Cheers to chaos."
Which I think is both great, but maybe undersells the work that he does as well.
Possibly.
Which, it's the nature of most winemakers. They're a humble lot. Right, so you've now talked this up
Yes, I know.
extraordinarily. So
I feel like I should have just given it to you first. And
exactly.
then you've had it before?
I have actually. I've
You
had a
have.
glass of this. You may well know a small, slightly shady South American element house called Manuel.
Yeah.
So Manny gave me some of this in that wonderful, wonderful wine cellar they have at Element House that I consistently try and get myself locked into.
And what I really like about this, and I think we should just, you know, taste it now and then put it to the side, is how it opens up with time.
Such a rich perfume on the nose.
Yeah, so it's really funny because most people would think just look at the winemaking process and think it's orange wine, but I mean it's anything but.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right. Yeah, I think it's wonderfully pithy. It's got a really nice oily mouthfeel, and it's wine that makes you think. That
And
is
you
something I
get the,
really like.
that sort of that perfume nose leads into really nice sort of aromatics on the mid palate. It's
Yeah, it's like,
well, I'll tell you what. Let us do exactly that. Let's set it aside.
stick to the side, and then
we'll come back to it.
because it really
for,
does. I
for
just find
round
every
two.
sip, it just opens up
And
more
it's
and
also,
more.
I think we're both guilty from time to time of beating drums on the same topic, but we're just really trying to drive home elements of wine that we're passionate about. And for me, it's both it's giving white wine time, whether it's aging it in the bottle and not opening it 7 minutes after it's come out of harvest, or opening up a bottle, decanting it, and letting it see how it changes course as it makes its way through an hour or two.
100%. And the other thing is temperature variation. And I think we're so used to drinking white wine so ice cold, but something like Chaos White or even the Bosphorade, it can be served slightly warmer because it does it opens up so wonderfully when you do let it breathe.
Just know that every time you put a block of ice into a glass of wine, a baby penguin dies. Just so you know that. It's a true story.
True story.
All right, 2 whites done.
Yes.
Now on to something that looks the shade of most of the Barmy Army cricket fans who've been
It
out here over
does
the summer.
this weekend, doesn't it? This is Carin Rosé. It is by a fantastic young winemaker again, Megan van der Merwe. She is 27 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And it's 100% Cabernet Franc, which I think is very cool. Wine of origin Constantia. And she's just another young winemaker who's doing some really incredible stuff under the radar. And I think it's a fantastic example of what South African rosé can be. I think for a long time we were used to that violently pink, sickly sweet,
Yes.
type of rosé. And I think more and more winemakers are moving more towards this Provence style. Onion skin is the term that's getting thrown around in terms of color. And it's serious rosé, so
So a couple of the rosés I've had of late, I've had quite a bit of Pinotage rosé, which I think, with apologies to Pinotage makers, is some of the best wine that's coming out of Pinotage in the form of rosé. But also the Cab Franc, some of De La Graf's I had last week, where you're getting, again, that beautiful Cabernet Franc perfume to it that's being distilled down into what, as a mouthful, is very different to a red Cabernet Franc, but the characteristics are still there, and a lot of that richness is still coming through.
100%. And you even get that very classic Cabernet Franc pencil shaving kind of tertiary note coming through here, even though it is quite a young rosé.
That's why I know you had to your 26 million Instagram followers not that long ago. You were requesting your people's thoughts of the wine trends for the year. I think I put up something silly like flings and champagne.
You did.
But I think our wine, I think Chenin was probably the wine of 2019, will continue its strength.
Completely
But I think
agree.
Cabernet Franc in 2020, guys at the top end, Gerard Holden, if you haven't had it of late, the Anthony Rupert Cabernet Franc is
I haven't.
staggeringly good. Probably the best red wine I had last year.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, definitely.
5 stars from Platter, probably could have got 6. But Rainbow's End, Warwick, some guys making, even Callan Williams, the garages, different style of Cabernet Franc, but also really, really good. So I'm very excited.
Again, I think it is, you're right, it is a very underrated varietal that we
For
haven't
too
been
long,
paying
we've
attention to.
consigned it to the back end of a blend
Completely.
instead of giving it its own limelight.
I mean, even on the nose, you get that wonderful minerality, that
Yeah.
salinity, that's
And that little
Just coming through.
tiny bit of green pepper that you'll get in the red Cab Franc as well.
yeah. And it's wine that makes you think. It's not, you think of rosé and people think lie by the pool, easy drinking wine, which I would quite happy do with all these wines.
Yes.
But it is wine that makes you think. It's grippy. It's it's complex. It's not it's just so much more than just a one-dimensional rosé.
So here's your challenge then, Mr. Food Expert.
Yes.
What am I eating with this?
It's a tough one because it does have that grippy mouthfeel. Again, you could even do something like a salmon pasta, so something that's creamy because I think it's got the acidity to work through that. It does also have that wonderful minerality and salinity that I think would go well with a fatty fish. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
I might throw a piece of seared tuna at this and see what happened.
100%, that'd be great.
Is there any problem with spending time with Steve? You tend to get hungry very quickly.
We'll have to grab lunch from the canteen later.
Marble, we'll see. All right, so 3 down, and that was a
Yes.
lovely, lovely rosé. Couple of great whites. You're 3 from 3 in terms of impressing me here, Mr.
Fantastic.
Seinfeld.
I'm really glad. I
Um,
was quite nervous coming
in
into
fact,
this.
one of the 2 most impressive Seinfelds I've come across, really. Uh, so your last one, and I've had a sneak preview of this, and I've seen this mentioned by yourself amongst others in social media. This is a man we both know, and he fits the theme of today, being another incredibly talented young winemaker.
100%. Mark Leroux, most well known as a winemaker at Waterford. And yeah, this is his first foray into his own label called Mark Leroux Wines, and this is the Mark Pinot Noir. Again, it is wine of origin Elgin. Again, a really exciting region that I think is just, maybe even taking the place of Yilmonada as Pinot Noir territory.
Ooh,
So
that's a big call
it is
to
a
make.
very big call to make.
You shall
but
have the Hamilton Russells and the Beauchard Philistons and the Newton Johnsons and the Summeridges and the Lavierges and the Storms and the Restless Rivers.
coming after me straight away.
Yes.
Listen,
so
they
you'll see
all
this
make
is Steve's phone number on screen at the moment. Feel free to give him a call.
they all make incredible wine, but I think Elgin is really showing wonderfully as a Pinot Noir territory.
And there's an existing connection because Waterford have a couple of wines already in their range that come from Elgin.
Exactly. So yeah, I think it's really cool. And again, it's that whole concept of mentorship that Mark is allowed to go out and make his own wine.
And what a mentor to have in Kevin Arnold.
Well,
You
there we
can't
go.
ask for better.
100%. I actually tasted the 2015 gem last week.
Oh,
Cracker of a wine. Like super
Beautiful.
excited for that release.
all
But
right,
yeah,
well, let's see what this
let's
is.
try
So this is Mark, who's taken over as the head winemaker at Waterford, still under the guidance of Kevin Arnold. Not that he really needs much guidance. He's a talented man in his own right. So his own label. Oh,
And I think it is quite a unique style of Pinot Noir for a South African winemaker. I think
there are a couple of the Stellenbosch estates, or the estates in that broader area. Look at people like Paradijskloof, Friesenhof, a little further down the road, who are really trying to bring Stellenbosch Pinot Noir into its
Yeah.
own right, which is a bit of a challenge with the warmer conditions.
100%.
And so I'll be interested to see if Mark continues here, whether he braves a Stellenbosch,
Stellenbosch
Pinot
Pinot,
Noir rather than
yeah.
an Elgin one. Oh, that's dangerously good.
It is. It's really yummy, and I mean, it's it's still really young. So I think just with age, it's a wine you can easily drink now.
Yeah.
But should you be a collector, or you should like to age your wines, it is a wine that will age wonderfully. And I do like that it does have more of that almost Burgundian style of savoriness. You do get a lot of almost fynbos coming through, and a bit of Turkish delight. It's not so red fruit forward, which I think is a very interesting choice to make when it comes to making South African Pinot Noir. And I think it's one that has paid off here.
Oh, that is a very, very, very good selection. One that makes me think we should be doing this on a more regular basis.
I'm going to have to up my game. But yeah, it's a really wonderful Pinot Noir. And one
And
of
it's
mine.
also, I think, as proud as Mark will be of this, I think Kevin will be, because
Yeah.
this is his expertise carried on to a new generation of winemaker who's got his own style and his own way of doing things, but with such great background and experience.
Of course, and it does. It's got that finesse that I find in a lot of Waterford wines. And yeah, I think it's just a cracking example of a Elgin Pinot Noir.
Mark Leroux, you've done a great job. It leaves us just one thing to do, and that's to head back
Yeah, let's head back to
to
chaos.
the wine of chaos that Steve drinks a case of a week and baths in the stuff every second Sunday.
I mean, even how the nose has just evolved
Yeah.
since sitting there.
Sort of got all onion marmalade.
Yeah.
And,
It's a bit of that like hayish type of.
and it's probably, I mean, it's changed in the space of, 15, 20 minutes, and it's going to continue to do so.
Without a doubt. Like
Probably
each-
the only
yeah.
challenge, really, is keeping the strength of mind to not finish the bottle.
Exactly, in the first like
Without
hour
giving
of
it
drinking,
time.
isn't it?
Uh,
Yeah.
This has been a terrific selection.
Thank you. Thank you for
Before
having
we
me.
before we let you disappear, though, 2020, food, wine. What is the Joburg Foodie most excited about? Looking forward to? What's on the horizon for you?
So WSET 3 is something I'm very keen to get under my belt. hopefully we'll pass it first time round. And then, yeah, as you mentioned briefly, I do some judging, so American Express Dining Awards. We're going ahead with that again soon, so yeah, lots on the go. And just super excited to keep showcasing, especially Joburg. I think there is not enough focus on Joburg's culinary scene. And we've had this conversation many times about great restaurants and, you know, whether there are or aren't as many as we'd like in Joburg. But I just, yeah, I'm excited to keep on, as I always say, just raising an industry that raised me. So,
Yeah, you spread the gospel with both enthusiasm and expertise. So
thank you.
keep doing that. Keep enjoying the wine. I know we'll have many glasses through the course
Most
of the
definitely.
year. And when people want to come and find you online,
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the Joburg Foodie.
so there we go. New restaurant reviews, old restaurant reviews, plenty of wine in between, and a really important voice in the South African food scene. Giving food as well as plenty of wine a place in the sun. And here are 4 great examples, a couple of lovely whites, a beautiful rosé, and Mark Leroux making his debut, a terrific selection, one I've thoroughly enjoyed. Remember, if you want to find some of your own wine, the Pick and Pay Wine Club, great place to start. Doesn't cost you a thing, gets you great rewards. And if you're not a member, which you should be because it's free of charge, simply send a text message with your smart shopper number to the number on screen at the moment. And while you're doing that, Steve and I have got some wine to finish. Cheers.